You know, when we talk about the future of artificial intelligence, it's so easy to get lost in the weeds of algorithms and processing power. But what if the biggest piece of the puzzle isn't the technology at all? What if it's actually us and the choices we are about to make? Okay, let's really get into this.
So this is a question that was actually put to Nobel laureate Daron Acemoglu. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But he took it completely seriously. Because for him, the real issue isn't just who will own the future, but who should. And that's our guide for this whole explainer. Daron Acemoglu. He's an MIT professor who's basically spent his entire career untangling this giant knot of power, technology, and, well, who gets rich. His work gives us this incredible framework for understanding the really critical moment we're in right now with AI.
So, let's kick things off with his foundational idea, which is this. The path of technology is not set in stone. It's not some inevitable force of nature that we just have to accept.
This is the big idea from his book, Power and Progress. See, there's this common belief that a rising tech tide lifts all boats. But he argues that if you look at history, that's just not true. Without some deliberate choices, new technologies often end up just making the rich richer and putting more power into fewer and fewer hands. And this brings us right to the heart of the matter with AI. Are we building an engine that's going to create opportunities for everyone? Or are we building a tool that's just going to widen the gap between the handful of people who control it and, well, everybody else? According to Acemoglu, that outcome is very much up for grabs.
Which leads us to the core of this whole thing. Right now, there are two fundamentally different paths AI can take. Two competing ideas for what this technology should even be for.
Path number one is the one we're mostly on right now. It's the vision of automation. And the goal here is super simple: efficiency. It's all about finding tasks that humans do and then building an AI that can do it instead, usually to cut down on labor costs.
Acemoglu has this fantastic name for this kind of thing, so-so technologies. And he calls them that because, yeah, they're great at boosting a company's profits, but they don't really do much for the average person's standard of living. They're the kind of tech that gets rid of jobs without creating better ones to take their place.
But here's the thing. There is another way. That's path number two: augmentation. In this version of the future, AI isn't a replacement for humans, it's a partner. The whole goal is to build tools that make people better at their jobs, to enhance our skills and our capabilities.
Let's make this feel real for a second. Instead of building an AI that replaces the electrician, imagine an AI tool, maybe it's in a pair of smart glasses, that guides a junior electrician through a super complex wiring job. It gives them the knowledge and the confidence of someone who's been doing it for 20 years. That is augmentation. It creates value and it empowers the worker.
So let's just break it down. With automation, the goal is to replace labor. The main beneficiary is the corporation, and the result is usually wider inequality. With augmentation, the goal is to enhance skills. The worker benefits the most, and the result is shared prosperity. You see, it's two completely different futures built with the exact same underlying technology.
So, you might be wondering, if augmentation sounds so much better for society, why is almost all the focus on automation? Well, the answer, as it often does, comes down to power and who's setting the agenda.
Acemoglu's point is that the decisions about where AI is going are being made by a really, really small group of people. We're talking about a handful of massive American and Chinese tech companies and their governments. The rest of us, we have very little say in the matter.
And the stakes here could not be higher. He warns that this could lead to what he calls a new digital feudalism, a world where wealth and power are just locked up in the hands of a new tech elite, creating these deep, permanent divides in society.
And look, it's not just one thing pushing us down this road. It's a whole system. You have the tech elite setting the direction. You have governments pushing for productivity no matter the cost. Our tax codes even encourage it, often making it cheaper to buy a machine than to hire a person. All this creates a culture where replacing humans just feels like the default, the obvious thing to do.
Okay, so that might sound pretty bleak, like the future's already written. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot. There are actually signs that this concentration of power might not last forever, and there are some real glimmers of hope popping up. For one, you've got these incredible open-source AI models coming out that are prying the gates open. They're giving students and entrepreneurs access to tools that used to be totally exclusive, and that's sparking a whole new wave of startups that are making AI more accessible for everyone. Plus, let's not forget history. Economies have a funny way of correcting themselves after huge tech shifts, creating entirely new kinds of jobs we can't even dream of today. And this all brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. Back to the idea that, at the end of the day, this is a human decision, not a technological one.
This is the one thing you really need to take away from Acemoglu's work. Nothing here is inevitable. The steam engine didn't have to create the miserable factories of the 19th century, and AI doesn't have to create a new digital feudalism. What happens next will be shaped by our rules, our incentives, and our values.
So what do we do? Well, the path forward means we have to be intentional. We need to change things like tax codes to reward companies for investing in their people, not just for replacing them. We have to foster a new culture among the engineers who are actually building this stuff, one that values making humans better. And most importantly, all of us need to be part of this conversation, as citizens, as policymakers, as innovators, to shape the rules for this technology.
So, who will own the future? A tiny privileged few, or all of us? The technology is not going to decide that for us. The choice is ours. The only question left is, what are we going to demand and what are we going to build?